There we go. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much, Tracy, for joining us here. For those of you who haven't met Tracy yet, she's one of our legendary Subpod school supporters. She's works at Lindisfarne Grammar College, up about an hour north of where we are here in northern New South Wales. And she's been one of the very world first school to have subpods, and they got the unenviable volume of over nearly 40 subpods at their school. So she's had lots of experience with all the different dynamics around feeding subpods, collecting the waste, and of course getting a sustainable project up and running at her school. So she's one of my most valuable resources when it comes to providing more information to our school community, and helping teachers to get some of these projects over the line as far as getting it past their principals and their P&C organisations. So welcome to you, Tracy. Thanks for being here again. And then thanks to Darrell and to Annmarie for joining us. It's always lovely to have some other live human beings out there. So I'm not sure if any of you are involved in composting with schools, but that's the focus we have for today. So maybe I'll just get Tracy to just do a little explanation of what's going on at Lindisfarne, and then we can start taking a few questions.
Okay. Well, hello everyone, and nice to see you. And Darrell in Kentucky, USA. That's pretty exciting. What's the weather like over there? Oh. No sound. No, that's all right.
Is that better?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can hear you now.
It was warm today. It was almost up to 60 today. But
Oh wow.
in our weather.
Yeah.
Southern Kentucky.
Yeah. Oh, nice to see you anyway. So we're pretty lucky at Lindisfarne because we've got a principal that is always looking for ways to make our school more sustainable. And I was lucky also that I stumbled across a grant that was offered by the Environmental and Protection Agency, which is a or is it New South Wales, or is that
Yeah, I think it was New South Wales.
New South Wales, yeah. It's a state organisation, and what they were doing, they were offering to fund a project, 50% of fund a project if the school, the PNF, would pay for another 50%. So initially I thought, and when it was explained to me, if you spend $1,000, then it'll be matched by the EPA, and I just kind of thought, as if I'm going to get the school to spend $1,000. And then I was lucky enough to stumble again upon Subpod, who then talked to me about the Subpods, and I just thought that was just an amazing system. And I took the system to our principal, who also thought it was fantastic. What really sold us was the fact that we could put them in around the school and they could double up as seating. And we really had a shortage. We've got a very fast growing school. We had a shortage of seating. So I really sold it in the fact that, look, it's going to be around the school. The kids are going to be able to see it, but also sit on them. And, eventually when we're really good at it, the kids can put the waste directly into the Subpods. We're not quite there yet. But he was really positive. And so then I did a waste audit, and we just got a number of bins all around the school, had just our stage 3 students, the 5 and 6 students, go through it, work out, how much paper, how much general plastic, how much general rubbish, and then how much organic waste. And from there, we then, did a calculation on the number of bins we had and over the period of time to estimate how much organic waste the school was going through in a year. And then Subpod helped me calculate how many Subpods we'd need. And it came up with the strange number of 41. So people say, how did you get 41? Anyway, so then we went, all right, we're after 41. We got the quotes for how much that would cost. And Then I went to the Parents and Friends Association and said, told them about it. They were very keen, but at that point, I didn't know whether I was going to get the grant from the EPA. So it was a quite a stressful period of knowing, well, do I say yes, go ahead with the Subpods? Am I going to get it? And, I finally got this grant. So, which meant the cost of the whole project was around $38,000, and the EPA paid half, and the Parents and Friends paid the other half, because they were also very committed to becoming more sustainable as a school.
I'm just going to jump in. The 38,000 wasn't for the Subpods.
No.
The garden beds.
Yes, so that was a very big project. That was the Subpods, the really nice timber garden beds that were put in around the school, the worms, the soil. So that was the total cost of the project. Exactly, I don't know how much only the Subpods cost.
Subpods a couple of $1,000, I think. For
So it was a very, very big project, and we had a few stumbling blocks initially because that was 2020, so the start of COVID. So just when we got them in, suddenly there's no organic waste in the school because we weren't at school.
Poor Tracy had to look after 40 times 2,000 worms.
Yeah, so it was. I looked at them like they were my babies to start with. So I was running around Woolworths and Coles and other shop places to get things to put in it. But anyway, when we came back to school, we had a system. We've got a system now that we're still using. Our council donated small plastic compost caddies. So I've put those all around the school. I probably have 100 of them out next to, or close, maybe 80 to 100. I haven't actually counted, next to all the general waste bins. And I then went through a big advertising campaign where I went up on the assembly, because the campus I'm on, we are year 5 to year 12, and we've got another campus that is preschool to year 4. But I got on up in assembly with, in a green garbage bag, so that they'd be thinking, what's she doing? Because with older children, it's a bit harder to get them to do the right thing because they're pretty lazy. And I talked about, I know I look silly, but I want you to remember me and remember what I'm doing and what my message is. And I first introduced the fact that we were going to be collecting all our organic waste and diverting it from landfill, and all the benefits that was going to provide the school. We also have, big television screens in all of the classrooms, like the one behind me. So I had the screensaver was all about, organic waste going into the compost caddies. We had newsletter items, posters, things like that. I did lots of little videos for the stage 3 students, the year 5s and 6s, because they're the easiest to target, still that primary school age. And they're the ones that I work with mostly. I have got a team of year 6 students that after lunch every day, they go around and empty the compost caddies into 20-litre buckets that have lids. They then go back to a main store area, and 2 to 3 times a week, we take that organic waste and put it into the Subpods. So the Subpods probably get fed once a week, but they get a substantial amount in that week. On this campus, we've got 31 Subpods, and we've got 10 down at the junior campus. So what's really good about that is that they're being educated down in the junior campus as well, and they're really passionate about it. Little kids love it. They get over it a bit as they get older, but we're coming through. So as they come through now into year 5, they're already really familiar with it. And I've got kids going into year 9 this year that are my first Subpod kids. So slowly but surely, it's moving through the school, and I'm really hoping. Well, I have seen already an increase in that amount of organic waste that we're capturing. There's still a huge amount going into the bins because the older high school students don't want to walk or bend down to put their organic waste into the little bin, and so I'll go around and look in the bins, and there's still plenty of waste. But having a relationship with those kids that are going through the school. And then I also spend time with Year 9 students. They help me in a service learning program, and so they're being reacquainted with the collection of organic waste and the subpods. The high school teachers also talk about it in homeroom time, and I've just got to reinforce that that's continually done, just so that it's a conversation that everyone in the school knows about the subpods, knows about the importance of collecting the organic waste and what a great thing we're actually doing.
I mean, you're training human beings here. You're trying to get human beings to change their behaviour, which of course is always a challenge.
Yeah.
What I love about what I've observed from Tracy and Lindisfarne, and seeing what they've done in the junior school, which is focused, as you said, on the year. What year is it before they come to you? Anyway, the year before.
Year 4.
Yeah, year 4. That they're the ones who are looking after the subpods in the junior campus. And the teachers are really great. I went up there to do a talk to the next year, that was year 4s that were going to be moving up, like at the end of last year. They got me up to sort of train up the next year that would take over from the year before. So this whole legacy, the passing on of their experience, the behaviour, and so as they said, as Tracy said, by the time they get into the senior campus, they're already familiar with it, and so this is what I think we've talked about this, Tracy, is that, you may not get the whole school on board immediately. It's a slow process, but even if you change 1 or 2 children's behaviour, you're kicking goals, because they're going to take that out into their community, into their homes, and eventually, that will be so ingrained in them that, a bit like me with my mother, who used to, always take compost everything. I can't put a banana skin in the rubbish bin. I have to bring it home now and feed it to my worms, because it's just so part of what I do. A bit like taking, my coffee cup to the cafe, because I can't bear to get one of those silly paper cups that goes in the bin after 3 minutes. So yeah, really great. And of course, the tips and tricks of things that you've learned about. I mean, I love that garbage bin getting up in the assembly. Of course, your school has the resources of, television screens and being able to do videos and share them. I also know that there's I get contacted by a lot of schools. Of course, their budgets are pretty low. So what kind of other ideas do you have for people who may not have, the large funds or the ability
the younger you can get the kids, the better, because they're, it's such a, it's a reward. And I watch them as they get older. It no longer becomes a reward, and it's harder to motivate the older kids. The 5s and 6s are still great, but just if we didn't have the TV screens, and that's only something very, very recent, it'd be posters, it'd be competitions. And in that first year, I had some competitions of, who could, with posters up. We also, in year 6, have an Oz Harvest program, which is all about reusing food that would normally go to waste. So that's a really good thing to incorporate in with the
and that's about cooking and eating, which of course
and eating, but we're still talking about we're talking a lot about food going into landfill, and the problems that are caused by that. And so I find those year 6 kids get really passionate about not throwing out any of their food into general waste. So trying to think of how they can reuse it, but if you can't reuse it, then it's going to be composted, because we've now had a number of our subpods where we've harvested the soil and it's gone back into the gardens, and that was really exciting. That's probably the most exciting thing for me with the whole subpod process, to actually see it, the full circle. There's the soil, with the kids, they made the mounds to get, because the worms don't like the light, so they just keep going down. So we just kept scraping the soil off the top and putting it back in the garden. And it doesn't matter if we get some of the worms in it, because they're going back into the garden, so they can find their way back into the subpod. Probably the biggest stress for me, and the hardest part of it, is the holidays. So the first year, I was, really worried. And so I spent the whole Christmas holidays going to Woolworths, Coles and vegetable shops, and twice a week I was coming in to feed them, and it was just ridiculous. It was too hard. Last year, a year ago, so not the Christmas we've just had, I put half a pumpkin in each one, and not chopped up. It's got to be whole, because then they're really slow. If you chop it up, they'll eat it quickly. But some whole fruit or anything whole, it just takes a really long time. This last holiday period, I didn't do anything. I couldn't get the pumpkins. I was lucky the year before I was able to get 100 pumpkins from a pumpkin field. So this time I didn't do anything. And they were in a pretty bad way 2 weeks ago, because they dried out a lot. So I spent a lot of time getting them wet again. And once I start to put the food in, they start to come back. So I learned last year that they actually went, because even though I'd fed them, they disappeared. I didn't feed them as much. I'm thinking, oh no, I've got none left. But once they smell the food back in there, and it's a moist environment, I've found that you can't get too moist in the subpod. My most successful subpods are the ones that sometimes flood. And I think, I can't believe it, but that's where they multiply. You know, when the irrigation system has been a problem and I open it up and it's full of water and I think, oh no. And then, amazingly, they just absolutely multiply and even get fatter in that situation than a drier, but still moist, but drier sort of soil. So what I did, I went round a couple of weeks ago and just kept the hoses in them, got them really, really wet again, got the food in, and I've already seen the worms returning. So they just go out into the existing garden, find out things, kind of lay dormant, get the smell comes back, and they're back in again.
And I think that's what we've worked out over these last few years is, they are pretty robust worms. They're a lot more robust than we give them, credit for, but they do like, as you said, moisture, and they like their food. So, you've got those two things to entice them back with. But also what I love the idea of is getting to that point where you could load up your subpods at the end of your year before you go on holidays. And then, so by the time you get back from holidays, then you can harvest them.
Yeah.
So, that I kind of would love to see schools, getting that idea happening, once they've got a good population of worms, just load it up. And then, harvest the castings as one of the first activities when you come back in the next year or the next term. So I'm looking forward to seeing a few more schools experimenting around that. So, Okay, look, just thought while we've got people here, Tracy, unless there's something else that you really wanted to share, I just thought we might open it up to some questions. I don't know if anybody here is actually works in any of the schools or is already composting or has a compost project. Feel free to either unmute or raise your hand or ask a question. Love to hear from you. Yay, Kylie.
Hi, I'm Kylie. I'm from Gosford Preschool, and we actually got a subpod. It would be almost a year ago now. So we're starting preschool, and it's amazing. And we shut down schools, holidays, and everything as well. And I was the same as you, Tracy, freaking out because they're my babies. And, I put them in there, and I'm like, oh, Mrs. Scott's babies. Be really careful. The kids love them. They pull them out. They play with them. They touch them. They have this beautiful respect for them that, for what they're doing for our ecosystem and the role that they play. So we do lesson plans around that. But this school holidays, I did the same thing. I was freaking out thinking, oh, I'm going to come back. They're going to be all dead because I left them. They were amazing. We did exactly that. We loaded it up, came back, and I went, oh, this is ready to harvest. This is amazing. So that's exactly what we've done with our new kids that have sort of come in. But unfortunately, we don't get that same legacy of that long period. We only get 1 to 2 years out of our kids before they go to school. So we jam-packed with as much information as possible. And it's amazing how anal they become with, oh, you can't put that in the bin, and they all job on each other really, really quickly.
Wow.
And, instill that. So it'd be great to see more schools
It's
in
a
the local area.
It's a beautiful age. That's the perfect age. And then, your kids then going into a school that has subpods, it'd just be fantastic for just continue all the way through. It's when they're older that it's hard to change their ways.
Like all of us, when we get on it, just to get us to change. But look, I love that, like I know we did a pilot with one of the preschools here, and I remember the teachers saying to us, all we've got to do is pick up the compost caddy, where they collected the waste, and all the kids come running going, I want to feed the worms.
Yeah.
And then they all want to use the aerator, and I always see that the Subpods like this treasure chest that's it's always at the height where they can get in there, and it's for me that brings so much joy to think that you've got kids wanting to go to the compost and feed the worms versus I was like, who's going to go empty the compost? It's your turn. No, it's your turn. I don't want to go there. So loving that you guys are, Kylie, you're getting them really young. Tracy's helping as well. Like this is what I love seeing is this legacy, this passing on through the generations and developing these really important life skills that also goes into then helping them to understand about growing food as well. Like it's not just about what you do with the food waste, but the relationship that has with soil and growing things, and then maybe eating healthier things. And so, that's why I get so excited about these kind of things. But yeah, thanks Kylie for sharing that. And I'm very happy that it worked for you. And of course, if you ever need anything from us at Subpod, we're here to help support you in any way we can. And
thank you, Tracy, that your story's amazing. I've shared that with the kids on our smart board and they love it.
Oh, thank you.
Fantastic. Hey, Darrell.
I think I'm going to have to get involved with the schools here and see what they have. I know they have a greenhouse. I've got a greenhouse. That's where I got my Subpod now. And it's, I just harvested some yesterday and put in a bunch of new garbage.
Right.
There didn't seem to be a lot of worms in there, but hopefully they're going to come in from all around the soil.
Yeah, look, sometimes it's a bit like I say to people, you're starting a fire, and you've got to keep adding little bits till the fire gets raging, and then it's a lot more robust because you're building up a whole ecology in that Subpod. It's the worms, the microbes, and of course you're in a part of the world at the moment that's a bit colder. We're living in fairly warm spot at the moment, and of course a bit like human beings, they love it around that 24, 25 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
What, 70?
Yeah, up around that.
Well, so it was probably in the 80s here in Fahrenheit in the greenhouse.
Great.
So, and I had put my thermometer in yesterday, and it seemed like it was almost too hot. It was about 80 degrees Fahrenheit in the Subpod, which it should be below that, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know what is 80. Is that getting up to around 30?
I'm not sure the conversion.
Yeah. I have to look at that. Come on, school teachers, do you know this stuff?
I don't do anything in Fahrenheit.
I was going to say 80 degrees. I'm just looking up here.
I think I've read where it shouldn't be over 77.
So that's about 26 degrees. Yeah, look, 26 and a half degrees, 80 degrees is, that's getting up there pretty warm. But again, just keep aerating it. You could maybe just leave, the lid open for a bit to cool it down. Sometimes what happens is, and this is, a tip that we give to people in really cold climates, the coffee grounds and food waste, they will generate warmth within the Subpod just because of the whole process of breaking things down and life and activity. So, sometimes it's a benefit to have it a bit warm, but you can adjust, the warmth and the activity in the Subpod by adding more carbon or then adding more food waste, nitrogen. It's just, playing around with that. I mean, as I said, we're lucky in that we're living in a part of the world where I can pretty much either totally ignore my worms or I can throw anything in there and they'll work it out, and if they don't like it, they'll go out into the garden and then when they're ready to come back, they'll come back in. And part of what I like about the Subpod is that, free range worms, you're not got them trapped in this, trapped somewhere.
I think it's going to work a lot better now since I raised the dirt up in it, which you suggested, I believe.
Yeah. You've got to cover all those wormholes.
I didn't have it up high enough.
Yeah. And, I even suggest to people you bury it halfway up the air vents because eventually that soil will just keep dropping. And of course, mulch, organic matter, we're building soil here. When I did the talk with the soil microbiologist, she was saying every time you pull a plant out, you're actually taking the soil back to the beginning of evolution. So what you want to do is you want to try and encourage as much life in that soil by leaving the root systems in, so cutting off plants to the top, adding organic matter, and sometimes growing things that are all about adding to the soil so that you're building this ecology that's just life-giving and life-supporting. So
I did have stuff growing in there, but I dug it out carefully so I could put more dirt in and mix it all up. I had mushroom compost that I bought from a place that has a lot of mushroom compost, and that I think that's going to work pretty good. I hope.
Great.
And then I put them back in, so that my chard should be growing good. My lettuce now that I put back in.
Wonderful. Great. Well, thank you for joining us. And is there anyone else who has any questions for Tracy? Seems though we've got this fabulous teacher with years of experience of compost projects.
I do have one other question, and that is what I'm concerned about, because I always try to do everything organically with no pesticides, and we eat that way too. But I'm not sure how it is down there with the food you have and that you gather up, the garbage you put in. Is that all organic, or do people eat with GMO stuff down there?
Well,
Pesticides.
it's hard to keep, to be able to control that, because we're just getting
That's what I'm wondering.
the rubbish from, goodness only knows where they've come from. Some of it would be organic, some of it would be would have been through with pesticides on it, I imagine, but it's not affecting the worms.
They seem to be doing good.
Worms are actually really good cleaner-uppers. Like, they have been known to really clean up toxic sites, some worms. So I don't know, they're kind of this amazing, system that can deal with just about anything you can throw in there. As long as you said, give them a balanced diet. I think I was talking to Annmarie about what do you do when you've got kids who just got bread sandwiches and fruit. And it's like, add other things. So if you can add, a combination of organic or, whatever it is that you can find, that really helps to balance out their diet. Yes, Annmarie, you had something there?
What would be the most common form of or carbon from a school waste stream that you would use to balance out your digester?
Shredded paper. So I use I go up and get all the shredding from our top admin office, and I use all of that in the Subpods. Also, we have a woodwork area, and they save sawdust for me. I haven't been using the sawdust as much lately because it doesn't seem to. I've noticed a reduction in worms when I have sawdust.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was, maybe it's treated wood. So I went and checked. I said, "Is the wood treated?" But it wasn't. It was just pine. That they don't seem to like pine. So I've actually stopped using it.
It could have pine, could have oils in it.
Yeah. I did notice a decrease in the worms. So that I just use, sometimes it's newspaper that I've that's been shredded, but mostly it's white paper with ink on it. So
okay, so you don't mind that, you just shred it up, and
it just goes into the shred. That it's shredded for me up in the shredding area. And they shred a lot, and they put in garbage bags, and then I just take it down, and it goes. Yeah, I put quite a lot in. I put a really
moisten it.
If the Subpod is dryish, I do. Certainly in the last couple of weeks I have been, because we've had extremely hot weather, and I've really had to keep the moisture up in the main gardens where there's no irrigation. I mean, in the gardens that are further up the school, but we've got vegetable gardens down the bottom where we have Subpods, and those gardens are irrigated, so they're the ones that always get very, very wet, and I just have millions and millions of worms in those ones. And I don't that.
Automatic watering systems I always recommend to schools. If you can get ones when you set the garden beds up, it's just going to be a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of drama alleviated. And if you just have an automatic timer for however long it needs, and it's about keeping the soil moist. You just think it's more about the plants. What the plants like, the worms will like. So, again, just that's something that I always like to encourage schools to think about when they're designing a project, or it becomes an activity, a bit like Kylie, I suppose, in a preschool situation. Watering the garden might be one of the activities where they all go around with a watering can or using the hose, but that you need to have some sort of system where the water is the soil doesn't go from extremes of dry to wet to dry. That's where you're stressing out, a system. The garden.
That's the beauty of your design being an in-ground digester. You don't have to worry about flooding them because they're just going to, they have plenty, they're not being farmed in an artificial, above ground system where you have to control temperature and moisture and pH, So I really like the in-ground system for school design, simply for that simplicity.
Yeah, and they're not trapped.
Yeah. Well, I've composted with worms for about 25 years now, and
Wow.
I'm too old to be moving trays around anymore. You know what I mean? So I started with a worm tower, and I think the marketing that your Subpod is doing is absolutely going to change behavior, and you can't do this without that community that you're creating. So I really like what you're doing on that side, because the making it simple is only half the challenge. The other is motivation and changing behavior. So you got to make it dead simple. And moving trays around is not going to be, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. And look, that's why I love supporting teachers in schools, because they are hugely important in changing behaviour for the next generations that are coming. So that's why at Subpod we really are about building community, finding out what resources that we need. And I was starting, Tracy and I, we started a little schools work group last year to try and find out hands-on, what is it that teachers need, educators need to get a project like this happening. And so for you, Tracy, I know the grant was very helpful, having a principal that was really supportive and wanting to be sustainable. And of course yourself, the enthusiastic, passionate, compost warrioress. But, is there any other sort of, if someone's thinking about taking a Subpod project idea to a school, what are some of the things you could suggest to them that would help get it over the line? Or any tips around that? I mean, Kylie, you've also had some experience.
Probably not going into it in such a big way initially. Looking back, it would have been better to do stages, and especially with the years that the two COVID years that we had. I think you certainly need to have a school that wants to be sustainable, and having that someone at the top, the principal. If you've got somebody that is supportive and wants a more sustainable school, it's just the best system. You couldn't, lots of schools have had those turning ones, and they're smelly and they're not user friendly. These are just so easy with the kids, interactive. They can be involved. I look forward to the day when, the kids don't look for the compost caddies. They just go and open the subpod lid and drop something in. But it's still a fair way off that, because you really can't trust kids. And also the other thing is, if they did, I like to have control of it. So because we do keep a record of how much is going in, and the way I do that, these 20-litre tubs, when they're full, they weigh about 10 kilos. So I count that every time I have a full tub, that's 10 kilos, and we've got a document. And since the beginning of the project, we have composted more than 7 ton.
Wow.
In the first year.
Yay.
This is the junior school they weren't keeping any record, so it was a bit slow off. But now They're 10 subpods. I think they're putting probably more, or no, not more, but percentage wise, they're collecting a lot more waste than we are.
Oh, I think they're doing it every day too. So like I know that it's part of their.
Yeah, well, we collect it every day, but
Okay.
I still need to be, and this is the big negative. I am too involved in it. If I left, it would fall apart, and that is the biggest problem. Finding people that want to be a part of it, and not just by, oh, I'll give you a hand sometime. Let me know when you need some help. That's it. You get lots of that sort of offers of
So
help
building a
that aren't
team.
real.
Yeah.
So
Building a
I need to
team.
get better at that.
Yeah. Because
I'm
remember
lucky.
that teacher we spoke to that was down on the Central Coast, and she'd been doing composting projects for like 10 years.
Mm.
And she had some really great tips. She got, I mean, of course, she was like you, really passionate. And I think it was a very small community-based school, lots of engagement from parents and grandparents. But initially it was creating a green team where the kids were really on board. They wanted to be part of the team because they got all these privileges and they got all these special, time off in their classes, and they got to go on excursions special just for them, and they got to wear special vests, and they had a special trolley, and she made all these really special things about being in the green team. And it's that carrot or stick, if you can get them to come into the project because they're going to get rewarded somehow. And then, of course, they hand it on to the next. I think building a team, so it's not just one teacher or one person. You need to have the support of the admin staff and the principal, but you also need the hands-on support. And this is where I'm always trying to get even the grounds people, them to start to see how great. Like I had one school that said that the gardener was so impressed how his roses were growing that he wanted more subpods to put around his other areas. So again, it's just one step at a time, inspiring people to see the benefits of putting a little bit of extra work in, and trying to change a little bit of thinking and behaviour, which of course is why here at Subpod we keep going on that track.
I just wanted to add, Tracy, I don't know, I find for me, the staff are like, oh, we don't want to touch that because that's Kylie's project, and I'm like, oh, but it's not, so I find that they tend to let me do it because they know that I'm so passionate and like you. So I don't know whether your members would be the same, whether your colleagues would feel maybe the same. Well, this is Tracy's thing, we don't want to step on her toes, which it's not. The more the merrier. It's just
the problem is everyone is so busy. That's what the problem is. Everyone has got so much on, and I did start I called an Enviro team, and our kids have got so many choices of what they can do after school. They don't live close to the school. And I find, being in a school that's got kids from all out, like we've got a huge number from Byron, and we're up 35 minutes,
40 minutes away,
and as far up as halfway up the Gold Coast. And actually we've got kids all the way down to Lennox, so it's a long way, drawing area. So parents have then got to come and pick them up after school. The community's much easier to do something like that in, and I sometimes that's just a problem that I've had. And
it's a Western culture thing.
They're a little bit too privileged, and
busy,
and the staff are busy. No one does nothing, and it's just another thing. So
again, making sure that resources are allocated to a project like this.
I'm very lucky. We have a great sustainability helper. He was our sustainability prefect the first year I got the Subpods in. His name's Patrick, and he goes across both campuses. So our junior school campus, it wasn't working very well initially. Now he's down there one day supporting the teachers there, and if I'm not around, he will step in and support me. So that's really good. So I can leave things to him. I'll just send him an email. I'm not going to be here next week. I just need you to make sure there's no waste left in the school, because I always make sure everything's cleared on a Friday afternoon, and all the tubs are washed, not the caddies. I only bring the caddies in at the end of each term, and we scrub them. If there are any really foul ones throughout, I'll clean them individually, but there's too many to bring them all in. It's a really big job to bring them all in and scrub them and get them out again. So that job is once a term, but every Friday the big tubs are cleaned properly. We also have a huge crow problem here at our school. We've got crows like you wouldn't believe, crows that can get onto a child's bag, get the zipper, unzip the bag, get in, pull out the lunchbox and unzip the lunchbox. They can do that. I have seen that. That's what they do. So with our compost caddies, if food's left in them, it's no problem to knock them over and pull the food out. So
always they're recycling.
Yeah, and that's a problem, because then I get complaints. I'll get emails from different people on staff saying, we need a better system. And there are maybe better systems, but they'll cost a lot more money. And we have to have them. I had a lady from the council out here because I wanted some more. And she said, well, what do you mean you want more? You've got a lot. And this was a new lady. She said, I need to come and see what's happening. You should only have a few out, and the students go to them. And I said, that's not going to happen. I said, I've got to have one next to every
rubbish bin,
general rubbish bin, or that's where the waste will go. So
it's a very large campus you've got, though. So
it's large. It's large.
Spread out,
you always said a pedal bin would be ideal. Now, pedals would be, but they would break. The kids would break those really quickly, and they also cost a lot. They're cheapest one's about $25. So I find my best thing are the little plastic ones that the council gave me. They're not ideal, but I still haven't come across something that is cost effective. And
that's on my to-do list, to get the production team to start making us some carbon buckets, and of course buckets of because for children, if you've got a place where they can put their foot on the pedal, the lid opens, they throw in their food waste, and when they walk away, of course it seals. Because that's another thing, is to make sure that there's no, flies getting in to,
And this is the worst time of year for me. This is, maggot season. But surprisingly, there haven't been a lot of, it must be too hot for fruit flies at the moment. Yeah. Because I haven't had that same issue that I had at the beginning of last year.
Oh, look, every year is different. Each season, sometimes you get lots of grasshoppers eating my basil, and in other years it's, slugs, and in other years it's, so look, that's what nature does. It varies. So again, we try and just work with it, and try and alleviate by making sure the soil's covering most of those holes, and again, having a caddy that nothing can get in to lay its eggs on. So just those little tips and tricks around food waste collection, making sure that that the soil levels are good, and trying to balance out any of those extremes. Not too hot, not too dry, not too cold, not too wet. All of those things help to keep keep it ticking over and productive. So look, I just wanted to check in with Carren and Jay Hannon. If anyone else had any questions for Tracy, we've probably got 15 minutes before we're going to be finishing up. So I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity. If you had any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or pop them into the chat. We're mainly trying to focus on providing some good resources and suggestions for schools and composting projects in schools. Hey, hello.
Hi, how are you going? This is Jo.
Hi, Jo.
I'm at a large school in Sunbury, Victoria, and I've just received a couple of subpods. So they've just been installed into a couple of the garden beds, and we just haven't got got us going yet. So we're in the process of trying to get them started. Our chickens at the moment get a little bit of the waste, but we're trying to perhaps start with 1 year level to get started with those subpods. I think they're absolutely marvellous. They're an absolutely fantastic idea.
Great. And I love the fact you've got chickens, because I know, Tracy, when you get a lot of bread.
I find bread takes a long time to to compost down, and it's the only thing that ends up with mold all over it. So I always pull the bread out and give it to and save it for the chickens.
Yeah.
But what I have suggested, I don't know, Tracy, you've tried the soaking of it, the bread, so that it dissolves. Like if you put it in water, it'll break up into, because he's just trying to get into smaller pieces rather than a whole sandwich, which of course at schools it's whole sandwiches and whole pieces of fruit. So finding ways to just, increase the surface area of it to allow the microbes to get in there, but also, some water to dissolve the bread, and somehow a bucket where you can use a shovel or something to chop up the whole fruit. I mean, they'll eventually get through it. It's just if you're wanting to keep things ticking over at a greater speed, of course, the smaller the food waste, the quicker it'll get consumed and turn into life-giving compost. But this, again, getting a good routine, getting a good schedule. I love the fact, like Lindisfarne, they document the amount of waste that, calculate the volumes either by bucket or by weight, because it's really something to go back and celebrate, to really show to not only just the school and the principal and those who, looking at how much waste reduction costs that they're having. It's just sort of for the kids to understand, wow, look how much we've managed to, divert from going to landfill, and then calculate the CO2 and the methane that's not been, put out into the environment. And those things I think are just really great to try and document and celebrate and share. So yeah, look, any other questions that you've got for Tracy while she's here? Or Kylie?
I don't think I do, because I've been doing this at home for a very long time.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of taking it from small scale to very, very, very large scale. That's the difficulty. And, we're having the same problems. Everyone's too busy, just trying to coordinate the collection of the waste.
Yeah, the logistics around it. I mean, the system itself is fairly simple, but it's the logistics, again, in when you're talking about a community. So look, a bit of exciting news. Sadi just spoke to me, our CEO, before I came to do the meeting, and he's got one of his sons is a app developer, and he is working on developing it's like going to be a community app, where it's going to be like, okay, it's your turn to go and collect the waste. It's your turn to feed the subpods and have alerts and notifications and for like multiple people to connect in on the one spot.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So
that's what I need.
I'll talk to you, Tracy, about doing a little trial for us. We're going to
that'd be so good. That would be
at the office, because we've got now 11 people at the office and about 6 subpods. So I'm going to, you'll have to come and visit us at the hub. But anyway, we're going to trial it there, and then I'll be definitely tapping you on the shoulder to say, come on, Tracy.
That's what I need. That'd be, that would make it a lot easier.
Of course, we're still in the startup phase of Subpod as a business, so all these fabulous ideas on the whiteboard are slowly getting there, but that's one of the ones that we notice, because for us it's not just let's not get people started composting. We want to keep them composting. We want this to be a success story, not just something that's like, oh, here, sell you something and walk away. It's like our whole mission was to actually, keep this going and to support people how we can. So that's why it's invaluable for me to have schools to talk to and find out what their challenges are and what you need to support you to get going. I mean, apart from money and, staff and time, all of those things, if there's anything that you can think of, and especially because we're going to be developing little, like the program that Tracy mentioned, Oz Harvest. We want to develop a compost program unit that's easy for schools to roll out and implement. So that's, again, any feedback and ideas around that. That's something that we really want to get happening down the track, and of course because we go all around the world, it's got to fit into all sorts of different environments. But anyway, that's me carrying on about that again. But look, awesome. I love it. And Carren, I know you're there. You're the only one so far we haven't heard from. There's no pressure. I just thought I'd give you an opportunity in case you had any questions or feedback or suggestions. Yay! Hi, where are you coming from? Oh, you're muted. I'll have to ask you to unmute.
Sorry. Hi. I'm in Sydney. I'm actually an early childhood teacher and have been for about 1,000 years. I guess I don't have any really burning questions right now, but all of my questions that are sort of floating around in the back of my brain would be to do with how we can make it work in a long daycare type setting. You know, most long daycares are operating all year round. We don't have the school holiday issues to deal with, but we do have very small, very young children. And so therein lie some quite different challenges. Some challenges around, I guess, keeping the children safe around compost and microbes and those types of things, but also challenges in terms of their physical abilities, and getting community involved is always difficult too in a long daycare kind of a setting.
Kylie, have you got any experience, or Tracy, with that era?
How old are your oldest children?
5.
5.
So it's right before they go to school, so they're preschool age.
We've got them in the preschool as well, and I know definitely the 4 and 5-year-olds are not too small to use the aerators, and you know, you just have gloves, that sort of thing, you know, and then wash the hands afterwards. One of the people shares a staff from here. She has a 5-year-old in preschool, and he was just so excited about it. And they bought their own Subpod, and then we went down to our worm, got the worms, and he's just so into it. And apparently all the preschoolers down there, you've probably seen them, Catherine, down, you know, in our preschool. So yeah, 4 and 5 isn't too young, because it's, you know, they just have to do that action.
Yeah, sure.
And you know, an adult probably would have to then do it properly, because they probably, you know, but I don't think it would be an issue. But I started off with, you know, everyone had to have gloves and that sort of thing. And certainly if they're getting in to mix it up, which they do like to do, they have to have the gloves on, and all the kids will, even the high schools, they have gloves on, and because they get in and we mix the food. Because I aerate before I feed them and get it all fluffy. Then I put the food in, then the shredded paper, then I get in with my gloves and mix it all around. So okay. I don't do that final aerating process. I do that with my hands. I find that works better. But I don't think you'd have an issue. I think they'd love it.
And you can put a little lock on some of them if you're worried about them getting in there when you're not around. The larger Subpods, you can put a little combination or a little padlock on it to stop them from
even those initial little things that you gave.
Yeah. Little ring.
Then you don't need a lock. I think a lock.
Yeah, just a little ring or a little hoop
that they wouldn't be able to open.
Yeah. And of course, you know, keeping mulch on top of the soil. You know, all in a raised garden bed. You know, having a few nice things planted around it, so that you know that it's a garden. You know, so just Anyway, Kylie, did you have sorry?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I think it'd be fantastic. We for height reasons, we did the raised garden with the metal around it, but we dug in a little bit for our shorter 3-year-olds, and we didn't put the lock on the top, simply because they would just try and shut it anyway, and it's light, so we weren't concerned about it hurting them. So you know the lock on that, do you know what I'm talking about?
The lid stay, yeah,
the lid stay. So we didn't put that on at all.
Yeah, I don't recommend it in schools.
for that reason. And the kids are great. And where we positioned it, we do group time out there, so we actually use it as a bench seat, and put mats in front of it. So it's just an absolute beautiful spot for growing things. And we have bush tucker garden and that sort of stuff there as well. And so it's using it as a seat. So I think it'll be amazing, in a long day, in a long daycare centre. And geez, growing up from that age is even extra special, isn't it?
Yeah, and then of course you're eating food, so then you can have leftover food to feed the worms, and then you can grow food. So then you're showing them the whole cycle.
The whole paddock to plate, although it doesn't get there. We harvested carrots the other day, and the kids were literally eating them, dirt and all. And I'm like,
cherry tomatoes, carrot, all the things, snow peas,
they're beautiful.
All the things that
magical. And I've had so many parents and grandparents say, I can't get my blueberry bush to get this many blueberries. What's going on? I'm like, it's the compost bin that we use. It's a sub pod. Sorry, you have to get one of those if you want one. We'll give you guys credit. I don't know whether it's that, but yeah, we have an amazing blueberry tree in there.
The amount I can grow around a sub pod compared to a garden without a sub pod, it's life. It's life in the soil, and of course the roots they'll just tap in to all those goodies. The plants.
Well, our kids do actually go over and just throw it straight in there, eat their banana and just put it straight in there, like you were saying. So that'd be great if you could do that in their long day. It'd be just beautiful.
Yeah,
really good.
And you can use it like that as long as someone's coming behind to add in a bit of carbon every now and then and give it an aerate. You can let the kids just use it as a place to put their leftovers, but you just it's just having someone that's going to balance it out if it needs to be.
And we're on the Central Coast, so if you ever wanted to, or up and you wanted to come and take a look, you're very more than welcome to come and take a look at ours.
Oh, wonderful! Love that. That's one of my dreams, is getting schools to support each other. Great. Oh, wonderful. Well, maybe we can, do a bit of sharing of, you find each other on the Grow Hub or share your emails, and then that would be great. Is everyone on the Grow Hub here? Is everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. So really wonderful to have you all join us. Is there anything else? We've probably got 4 minutes left.
Thank you so much.
I was just going to ask this. I don't know if you have that much extra vermicompost that you can sell it. Do you do that at all, or
the soil?
Yeah, the soil. Do you have enough?
Oh no, we reuse it we reuse it in our own gardens.
You have enough. Okay. I didn't know if you had enough extra that you could sell it or not.
No. It takes quite a while to break down.
Enough, but
it takes. Right. I find.
As a fundraising idea, you could, like I do, one of the schools in Hawaii that I visited, and they have that, where they get fed at lunch, the kids get fed, and of course they don't eat it. And so she composts large volumes, and she sells for compost. But what you could do even is you could create little compost bombs. So you could have the castings and sell it with a little string bag, because you know how to make liquid tea from it. So then you can just get people to use it as their indoor plant compost worm bomb or whatever it is, and you can do a little fundraising project with that, selling it for $5 for a compost bomb or something, and help, sponsor the next school, plant buying, expedition or something. So there's lots of little ideas that you could. I think castings they're so amazing, that they're so concentrated that, the liquid fertilizer. I don't know. Do you ever do the liquid fertilizer thing, Tracy?
Yes, well, inside the paint
strainer bag,
bag, and then I've put that in the water. It's exactly what lovely Peter explained to me, and we've done that and then poured it in. We've done that a couple of times, but again, it's one of those things I've got to need more time to do, because I don't want to do it. I want the kids to do it. So
and when you're replanting, it's probably really comes into its own. If you were doing a replant, like you had a special day where you're doing the garden, that's when I tend to do it more. When I want to give my indoor plants a bit of a treat, because they don't have much soil around them. So give them a few goodies. But
can you put too much? Like if you're just planting putting a transplant and transplanting a plant in, and then put tea on it right away, it's not going to hurt anything, right?
No, if you're making a liquid tea out of the castings, it's totally, you can't overdo it. What you'll find that is castings, if you're going to just plant into the castings, they can get just a bit moist. So I tend to mix them with like a bit of potting mix or some of the other soil I have, just because you want to create like really easy friable, soil where the roots of the plant can get around. But, like I empty my sub pod and throw it all around the sub pod and throw plants in, and they love it. It all just ends up dissolving lovely into the soil, and of course creating more life around all those plants. And you can't burn, you certainly can't damage.
No, you definitely can't. People say that you can all the time, but I tell you what, I can grow any seed directly in worm castings, including avocados are constantly coming up,
mangoes.
In
Mm.
Victoria, I mean, they'll come up, they're not going to survive because it's too cold, but anything will germinate in it.
Yeah, like a pumpkin. You often get your pumpkin seeds and tomatoes already sprouting up in the subpod.
I'll have to send you a picture of my subpod at home. I've got a self-seeded pumpkin vine that's come out of it, and I've just left it, and I've got this like a courtyard that's got nice white pebbles. It's taken over. It's come out of the subpod, and it's just like I've got pumpkins all over it.
Oh, you better share that with Peter Critch so he can share it with our community.
I will.
We're always looking for great images.
When I mean to plant a pumpkin, I never get a pumpkin that's so vigorous.
Exactly. Awesome. Oh, well, wonderful. What a wonderful way to round off. Thank you so much for that, Tracy, and thank you all for joining us here today. It's been really great to have you here, and look, just stay tuned that the Grow Hub network that Community Grow Hub's been on, they went and did all these changes on us in the last couple of months. So we're about to do a whole reshuffling of it to make it a bit more user friendly. So I hope everyone will be able to navigate and find the schools area, and please share any resources or any contacts. Love for everyone to be able to share their information and build our own little school community. That would be great. Yes, Darrell?
I was just going to say it's great to be able to talk to somebody that's tomorrow and we're today.
Yay! You're so yesterday. And look, we'll be having Dr. Compost coming back on too once a month, Darrell. So if you do have any more questions specifically about Subpod and worms and soil and things, he's going to be there to answer a question. I think we're going to do it the last Thursday of every month, and that's another great one to join. So keep an eye out for that one. But thank you to Joe and Kylie and Carren and Annmarie, and for Tracy, for all you educators out there. I celebrate and just thank you so much for inspiring the next generation to be doing good things for this planet. And even if it's just one child that goes home and says, "Mom, why aren't we composting?" We've got to win. So thank you so much, and thanks for being here. And Tracy, once again, your passion and your excitement for Subpod and worms and composting, you're a legend.
It's lovely to share the story, and I couldn't have done it without your support. Subpod have supported me incredibly through this whole journey and continue to. So I'm very lucky to have that partnership. It's great.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, if you leave Lindisfarne, you might have to come and work for us.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. All right.
Have a great day, a great
Bye.
evening. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.